That's what's fine.
Okay. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising such notice in the Tribune, God bless you, the Asbury Park Press, Board Office, the schools, and on Cablevision Channel 118 and Verizon Fios Channel 24, and by filing this notice to the Township Clerk. This meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, April 9th, 2019. The board will take formal action on payment of bills and other agenda items. Mara?
Oakridge Township.
He's there. You said that.
The Oakridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of this state establishes that members of the public, including members of the board, have the right to record in public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that act of recording is not interfere with the business of this public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered to be private recording of the individual, and no manner represents the official record of this board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
Roll call, please.
Carol,
Here.
Freeman,
Here.
Dunn,
Here.
Ellis Foster, Glenn,
Present.
Reed, Singh, Swarkowski,
Present.
Kelly,
Present.
Warren, assistant.
Can you rise with the please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a volunteer to read the code of ethics of the month, highlight of the month.
I'll read it, Madam President.
Thank you. We have minutes in the packet. We have a report of the student representative. Do we have any recognition? Next one.
I don't believe anything comes up like that.
Okay. And a superintendent's report?
Of course.
Now,
Nothing tonight.
correspondence and special committee reports.
Yeah, you'll get what you made.
For-
Regular.
Oh, for the one.
We just had it, that's
Right,
right.
okay.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Oh, yeah, there was a technology.
All right, well, she's actually going to be late, so when she comes, I'll ask her if she has to report. For next week. Okay, we're going to open the floor to hearing of residents on agenda items only. Ms. O'Neill?
Thank you. I'd like to talk about under supplies, equipment, and services, number 2, the custodial and management services, or actually number 3, I guess, the awarding of the bid for the new custodial company. I'm surprised to see this on the agenda, because as those of you at the table know, after being implored to come to the table to look for solutions at the last board meeting, I emailed a handful of suggestions to the board members and central administration, and one among them was the idea of deprivatizing the custodians, so that the OBA was willing to work with administration and the board to try to reduce the cost below the parameters of the current contract, to try to make it a cost-saving issue for the board. And for that reason, I'm really surprised to see this on this agenda, especially for to be voted on at an agenda meeting. I had, as I said, proposed the idea. The response that I got was the custodial suggestion is new and open for discussion. Keep in mind, new state minimum wage laws would have implications beyond the starting salary figures you have provided. Additionally, there are several cost factors that were historically elevated in the district custodian workforce beyond salaries and benefits. This year, all options remain open as we continue to try to close the gap between costs and funds. I replied as quickly as I could to follow up on those ideas. Part of what I said was, depending on the number of hours worked, minimum wage increase could be an issue, but it's being phased in gradually. It's only going to be $10 on July 1st, 2019. I don't know what the other costs beyond salary and benefits would be, but we are willing to discuss amending the current contract to make this a feasible option for the district, because doing so will not impact any current members, unlike the other proposals that have been discussed. Just to throw some rough numbers at you, I believe that we could renegotiate the parameters for class 1A custodians who currently don't exist in the district to keep benefits under $10,000 a year, and at least for the coming year, the salary at about $21,000 per year. At $31,000 a year in compensation, I estimate we need about 80 custodians, but I could be wrong. That would cost the district about $2.5 million next year. If I'm way off on the numbers and we need 100 custodians, which seems outlandish to me, that would cost the district $3.1 million next year. The bid that is being accepted tonight is over $25 million over 5 years. That's over $5 million per year. So even if my numbers are wrong, even if there are some unforeseen cost impact that I don't know about, I don't know what that would be necessarily, but I sincerely doubt that it's to the tune of $2 to $2.5 million per year. I'm also concerned that this is 5 years. It's a 5-year contract, so it seems as if not only is this option being shut down next year without any serious discussion, but we are locking the district into this contract for the next 5 years, making this not a viable option at any point in the future. I'm also really confused about why this needs to be voted on tonight at an agenda session. Over the years, it's been a constant topic of what should and shouldn't be voted on at these sparsely attended, non-televised meetings. The increase in custodial costs was one of the 3 key elements cited at the superintendent's forum, where we were told that Cheesequake was getting closed and before all of the other issues that came up. I don't know why this is such a rush that there was no meaningful back and forth in the proposed solution that we had put out, and that it's being voted on tonight instead of on a regular meeting agenda. So if anyone would like to address any of those concerns, love to hear it. Thanks.
A few things. First of all, have you ever, Mr. O'Neill, have you ever read the request for proposal for custodial services that was issued in October and then reissued again this year?
No.
Do you have any idea how many square feet, what the square footage is of Jonas Salk Middle School that requires cleaning?
I deal in workers, not square footage.
Well, but you're proposing to become a vendor or provide the services of a vendor, and you don't have the experience of being...
No, I wouldn't be a vendor. The district would employ these people. The OBA only employs our office secretary.
Well, you can't just throw 100 people out there and tell them to clean the buildings and without any supervision, without any supplies, and certainly in the next 2 months without any training. This RFP has been on the table for at least 5 months. There was more than ample opportunity to come to the table prior to that, this 11th hour. Whenever there's a change in any type of service like this, the transition takes a few months because the employees have to be transferred from one company to another company, criminal background checks have to be done, and it's just not something that's doable in such a short period of time. Since you've made a suggestion that you didn't send to me, you sent to the superintendent, I've only recently received it, but this late hour is something that it can't be considered. However, the contract that we're approving tonight takes into account the time we need.
I'm sorry, I have
I
been.
finished? I didn't interrupt you, please. So the contract that's being voted on tonight will enable the new company to come in, set up the cleaning procedures, go through the RFP, make sure that we comply with all the terms of the RFP, and it is cancelable if at the end of each year. So if you're prepared to bring a reasonable proposal to the table next year, we certainly can consider that, but at this point, proposing to pay people less than what we're paying our student in the back to clean our buildings is not a reasonable proposal that we can accept at this point. We're willing to listen to your suggestions, and this is cancelable each year in the 5-year period.
Is there something I want to cancel today, cancel also for whatever reason? Yes, was today.
You were copied on the email on March 28th at 11:22 a.m. I have it right here. Fine.
Mr. O'Neill, keep in mind the 5-minute limit. Can you wrap it up?
There's no way that was 5 minutes, but sure.
It's been 7.5.
I don't plan to speak more than I have to. We've been told repeatedly throughout this process that every option is being looked at. I put one out there, and it obviously hasn't been considered. You're pointing out that the RFP has been out there for a long time. I'm sure it has. I've only read one RFP in my life a couple weeks ago. But it's not really our job to find the solutions to these problems. We're trying to do what we can to help, and we're being told that you want us to come to the table, that you want to hear from us, that things are going to be taken into consideration, and then we don't get a meaningful response. I said we're willing to work with the district, and the response that I got was an email about email protocol, not about the substance of what I was sharing. So, we're doing what we can. We are certainly very limited in our knowledge and our role. We're doing, what we can, and, the rest of it is up to the board members and administration.
Offering to supply the district with non-existent 100 employees to clean the building so that our children go to school is not a reasonable proposal. And the RFP was opened on March 26th, so that was after all the proposals were received. If your response, if your interest was legitimate, it should have been done at a much earlier time. I've mentioned at the superintendent's forum that the custodial costs were increasing 1.4 million, and I believe that was in January. And for you to come up with a proposal 2 days after all the RFPs are received and expect us to work with a non-existent proposal of 100 employees at a wage rate that effectively is breaking the law, if that's your proposal to resolve the crisis, I don't consider that a serious proposal. If you want to bring a serious proposal to the table, I'm certainly willing to review it, discuss it with the board, but that type of proposal at this late time can't even be constructed so that it can be worked into a manageable program. We just can't put 100 people out there and say, clean the building. I know it's our responsibility to do that, but we can't do that at this late hour. So if you're serious, this RFP was developed over a 4-month period, was submitted to the Office of State Controller for approval, who approved it. It's been approved by the DCA. Now at this late hour, you're expecting us to cast all of that time aside for your proposal to bring in unskilled laborers below the minimum wage to clean our buildings. So you consider that a reasonable proposal? That's your position, that's not ours. If you're prepared to propose that again at a later date, we certainly can cancel this contract if it works.
The numbers I just shared were above the minimum wage and with the benefits, although they're not what our current employees get. I would imagine help would be enticing. But again, this is not generally our job. We're talking about negotiating with the board the parameters for possible employment, because we understand that as the contract is written, it is cheaper to hire a private company than to hire employees under the currently negotiated conditions. No, I did not offer this solution earlier. The board also never came to us looking for any solutions until last month at the board meeting. So again, trying to work with the district, trying to work with the board to find solutions that can work. This is not the only possible solution that I proposed. I can't travel back in time and have proposed them earlier. And again, our job is to negotiate the terms and conditions for employees, and we're trying to find ways that we can help the district.
Well, it's my recollection that negotiations began in December, and you had ample opportunity since my presentation at the superintendent's forum clearly indicated that we were facing a financial crisis, and one piece of that crisis was the additional custodial costs. And again, we're open to your proposals, we'll evaluate them, but what your proposal included was not something that we certainly can act on between now and July 1st and have a reasonable force in place to clean our buildings, do all the painting over the summer to ensure that when the kids come back in September, each school building will be in acceptable condition for opening the school.
Was that explored by the board, that option of employing a private force, as you knew before us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything more that needs to be said. Certainly the board would entertain that discussion in the future. And I think Mr. O'Neill's made his position very clear too. So I think we're on to the next public speaker.
I'm sorry.
Seems to me that this is, although it says 5 years, it's cancelable each year. So this is something, maybe it was too late to explore at this point. But again, this is a hearing of residents, not really a question and answer period, I'm sorry. Mr. Neighbor?
No, I was going to say that you, first of all, the wage that is in there was something that was negotiated with the board. So it was something that you guys did negotiate. I was just wondering if it was negotiated at such a low price, is that an option that has been explored in ways, we're bringing it up now, but was it something that was explored already? Is there a price tag that you looked at and said we could have done this to save the money? That's the
Mr.
question.
Lenagro, yes, that custodial class 1A that Mr. O'Neill referenced earlier, we did look at that. Truly no stone was unturned. That salary guide, almost 2/3 of it is written now in what legally is invisible ink. Because to hire somebody with a standard, normal 40-hour work week all year would put those salaries at an hourly rate that is dramatically below our new state minimum wage law, even now. And it will get further and further away, and more steps of that salary guide will become meaningless as we go through time. So the answer to your question is yes, and it is not really viable, unfortunately. But as Mr. Mara said, as we go forward with this contract with the vendor, the outside vendor, assuming the board approves it tonight, the dialogue between the OBEA and the district can absolutely continue. And if we can get if we can figure out a better plan, let's do it. That's great. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, I live in Old Bridge, I'm a taxpayer. I'd like to know why it's being voted on tonight and not at next Tuesday's regular board meeting. Speaking as a taxpayer, I wear many hats in the district.
I believe I answered that question.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
It's a timing issue. All employees will have to be hired by the new company. And because typically I believe this RFP goes out in February.
One week is going to make that much of a difference?
Well, we have 1 week and we also have the Easter break. We want to start this process as fast as possible. Once this is approved tonight, I'll sign the contract tomorrow and the wheels start turning now instead of during the Easter break, which is 3 or 4 weeks. And that's critical, having all the staff
The
in
Easter
place on
break
July 1st.
is 1 week. It's literally
Right,
a week
then
off.
everybody's out of town after that. We're trying to do that before the break. If we sign this tonight,
I'm sorry, everyone's out of town after the spring break?
did I answer my question? Did I answer this question?
No, I'm sorry, I'm speaking as a taxpayer.
I'm a taxpayer also. What I'm saying to you is that if we sign, if this is approved tonight, the contract will be signed tomorrow, and the process to begin transitioning all the people to the new company will begin tomorrow. If we wait another week, that will bring us into Easter break, and everything slows down during Easter break week, and we may not be able to start this process until May 1st.
Our market is closed for spring break.
school district is.
1 week time.
The services are closed? I'm confused by all this.
Is there anybody else for agenda items only?
Wow. Referring over to running for the board of that. Running for the board of that.
Okay. We have nothing under policies. Professional development. Does anybody have any questions? Items 1 through 5? Moving on to athletics. Have anything under athletics? Finance. We need a motion to item 1.
Then we make a motion to move item 1 to the finance, Madam President.
Thank you. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Solakowski,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Prima,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Ally.
Yes. Any questions or any discussion on 2 through 9? Non-certificated personnel office. There'll be one in addition to this. Okay.
Sorry, 39 years. Almost as long as I've been back.
Yeah, almost.
Come on, I leave it to it.
Okay.
Dr. Helper,
Very
on the
fun.
attachments here, I don't know if it belongs to non-certified personnel office. This is a 10 or 12 month contract, is that?
The job description?
Yes.
The job description says it is 10 or 12 months.
So the decision hasn't been made yet. Okay.
No, it's a job, it's not a position, it's a job description.
I understand that.
Okay, so back to non-certificated personnel office that's on the agenda. Mr. Solakowski, would you like to speak regarding retirements?
Yeah, I'll mention all of them once they go, please.
Okay, non-certificated personnel operational. Just item 1. Non-certificated personnel other, I need a motion to move item 1.
Then we'll make a motion, non-certificated personnel, other item 1. Madam
Thank you,
President.
Mr. Dunn. Second. Discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Carol, Prima,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Alice Foster, Glenn,
Yes.
Solakowski.
Yes.
Ally.
Yes.
Resolution approved.
Any questions or discussion on items 2 through? Oh, okay, and we have some more retirements under number 4.
I'll read them and then I'll make up a list of all of them and then talk about that.
Better get out your calculator.
Yes.
It's 2 and 4.
Yeah.
2 and 4, yes, thank you. Okay, so, certificated personnel, and you got a whole wow. Okay. Any questions?
Two of those were already approved, they're amended,
B and C, I got
B
it.
and C were already approved retirement, they are not anymore.
Okay.
Right, you already approved it, it's just being amended.
Correct. People
Right, two
changing their
amendments
dates,
and
when they're
one
coming and going.
Yep.
Are there any other questions as we move through? Item 15, through item 15?
Most of the rest of them are summer hours.
Non-certificated personnel transportation. One item. Supplies, equipment, and services. I need a motion to items 1 and 2? 1 through 3, sorry.
Done and moved, supplies and purchasing services, items 1 through 3, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Solikowski. Roll call, please.
Dunn? Yes. Alice Foster?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Solikowski?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Callie?
Yes.
Can I just make a comment on that? A few minutes ago, it was said about not being somebody's job to find ways for different avenues to save money. It is Mr. Mara's job, and I think he gave a very valid explanation as to why it couldn't go another route at this point. So I think that should have cleared everything up.
I have for your senators.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go through 15. Any questions? Okay, transportation. Items 1, 2, and 3.
Last week, that one special development, there are two bills in the legislature. This is our thing. Worrisome, this is what happened in state aid. It's Assembly Bill 4574 and Senate Bill 3084, so it's in both houses of the Senate. And what it says is that if a contracted bus services has one bus driver that's license is suspended and they do not inform the school district within 24 hours that bus driver being suspended, our contract with that bus company is canceled. So we again, this
So
is
we could be out and driving.
2,000 kids. We have 2,000 kids standing at a bus stop. This is in both houses of the legislature to sign off on this bill.
There's also a new bill, that requires us to put signage on every bus and contracts at the bus. It's that house by driving type thing, where you have a contract number. If someone from the public sees someone driving erratic or something, they have to get a number. It's required by law now.
Wait, that one,
That
all
one is
responsible.
required. The first two are.
First two are just
Pending. They are
pending
proposed stage,
legislation
they're
that-
subject to revision about timing and, shall we say, severity.
Right, so with one bus driver, you cancel a contract that's worth $10 million, and the kids are standing on the
So
corner.
what do you do? That's
Well,
all
our
I'm gonna say about
association that I
this
belong
proposal.
to is fighting. What I'm saying is this has been proposed by two sides of the legislature.
So you're saying that if a driver with a CDL license happens to have a private driver's license and they get tickets, they suspend his private driver's license and CDL?
I'm not sure, I think
And
the
that causes-
CDL is.
Depends on the
Separate standards.
Right, but it also just depends on the violation.
Right.
So if it's DWI and your private license, you automatically lose your CDL.
Correct. But sometimes it's not reportable to his employer, and it's 24 hours, it never will catch up. So you're saying that occurs, we could be the,
Yeah. You can take a contract
Unintended
with the council.
consequences.
And it's just, it's
It
automatic.
is at the review stage in both houses of the legislature. It's not law yet. It's quite likely to be amended, revised, and hopefully thought about a little bit.
Once he finds out about it.
I think they're, obviously their intent is to try to protect children.
I agree.
But they're gonna do, by trying to overly protect, they're going to leave other children at the bus stop.
Fine, the company, $50,000 if that occurs, why penalize the school district? Because ultimately it's gonna affect us.
So did you just say, is it the employee who has the obligation to report it to the manager?
I believe that's the case. In the case of an employee in our district that is no longer work here, typically we get a letter from the state saying that Mr. X can't work here anymore. We have to terminate him. Apparently, transportation contractors don't get that notification. But if the bus driver drives one day where he is not supposed to be driving, the penalty is so severe that it's
And again, they're trying to punish that company to be more on top of it by canceling, $1 million contracts. But ultimately, it's gonna leave buses sitting in parking lots and kids with no ride to school.
As it is, we can't.
Already, everyone was complaining about the fact that bus drivers now have to be, not just bus drivers, they have to also be mechanics. So there are no bus drivers. So there's bus drivers. That's the cause that I don't understand what what they're trying to do is so far beyond what needs to be done. But again, I'm reading this and I'm saying, okay, just a little
So you're saying that new hires to drive buses, the CPF will also be the mechanic?
It's part of
part of the exam. That's
exam.
part of the exam.
You have to lift the hood and identify parts of the engine as part of the test.
110 points.
Yeah.
And then if you
It's
fail,
much
you
more
can't take it
difficult
for, I
to get
think,
that license.
you can't take it for 6 months.
Is that why we're having to justify employees to make sure who buses are being
That's why most companies aren't bidding on that. Unintended consequences.
I thought regulation,
Okay,
good news, John.
all right, miscellaneous? There was, okay, that's. Please take a look at the attendance at the committee meetings, and just make sure that's correct.
We would incorrect, assuming it's
I gave it to my phone.
And I probably should have asked this under committee report, but Mr. Slakowski, the next curriculum meeting is
It's next Wednesday.
Excellent.
And when the next technology meeting is?
Scott, is that?
Next week, no, because there's a roundtable tomorrow.
technology,
Okay. All right, so 1 through 6. Board secretary and board business. Item 1 through 13.
That's right.
It really did that. Joanne, is that you? It was just a story. It's the dinosaur.
Are you that way?
So someone pointed out to us that the school board's convention was October 22nd, which is when we had what was sent out. So in the month of October, we either have to have the meetings on the 15th or 20th or the 8th or the 15th. Preference? My preference is the 8th or the 15th.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we
That
got
works
it.
for me, because the 29th is my birthday, so.
oh, well. Stop pressing, stop pressing, you can't do anything on the 29th.
Let's have a third meeting.
You didn't hear what he said. He said, let's have a third meeting on the 29th. No, he didn't. All right, so the 8th and the 15th then. Okay.
Oh, she's back.
Okay, so now we're at, hearing of residents on any, district-related item? Anybody? One? White? this is right after this.
Just wanted to, mention tomorrow morning, Kelly, you know about, right, the JSMS animal,
Pup rally.
yeah, there's gonna be.
Pup rally.
Yes, it's gonna be the pup rally, and, News Channel 12 is going to be at, Sauk School, 7 AM, right?
Yeah, they're gonna be doing a live broadcast at 7, 7:30, 8, and 8:30.
Yeah.
As long as there's no breaking news, so hopefully no breaking news except
Right,
us.
right, so that's very exciting, and, Mr. Sullivan is the teacher that is leading that club, and it's very exciting, and, of course, near and dear to my heart, the animals. And, he's doing really great things with that, but, so tomorrow morning, everybody tune in, Channel 12,
And they're raising money
For the American Cancer Society for the Park of Life.
right. So I don't know if that's what
Anybody old? I mean, old. All right, loaded
I ever
question.
did. A little bit more every day.
Of course, Lisa's not gonna answer that. Lisa doesn't have to. Okay, new business.
I just want to remind the board, we had a conversation with board members. They were interested in changing the date of the meeting next week. I'm not available. I have an event with my senior son, milestone events within the school that I'd like to attend so that he looks across, you can see all his parents there, not just one. So I'm not able to attend next week.
Enjoy
That
every
is
minute of your-
perfectly acceptable.
Are you ready, Dr. Halker, for next week?
Yeah, we have to go into closed session for personnel matters, so one disciplinary matter, and then personnel implications with the banking and
Okay, so I need to move. Bye.